And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Leigh Grode, channeler and medium, who during her NDE experienced God, which we're going to learn about and more. Leigh, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's wonderful to be with you. It's great to be here. Well, I guess let's start with the near-death experience.
Yeah, we can start on the day that it happened, or do you need a little backstory?
No, I don't need a little backstory. I mean, the only backstory is that I was living in the Netherlands and I was going to school.
Mm-hmm.
That's the background.
All right.
Okay. The date was January 3rd, 1991. The place was what they call the Old West in Amsterdam. And I had just left one of my professor's houses. I was going over the specifics for a film that I was preparing to make. And I went to the phone booth to call my girlfriend to tell her I was late and apologize for missing our appointment. When all of a sudden, these hands came over my eyes, like peekaboo. Only they were gruff and they smelled bad and they were bigger. And I realized in that moment, I don't know anyone here in Amsterdam that will play peekaboo with me. I elbowed, the grip broke, and then there were two sets of hands on me. And they pulled me out of the phone booth. Phone falling out of my hand and dangling, it recorded the entire attack. So there were three of them. Two beat me while one watched on. One kicked out my right hip through my rib cage and knocking me to the ground, busted my bones. One jumped on my chest and started beating my head into the cement. I sat up, literally sat up and left my body, and I ascended. Now today, I don't know if I went up like it felt like that night, or if I just went up and out. I couldn't clarify that yet. But what happened was I transcended this level of consciousness, reality, energetic field, human experience. I went to another place that was a non-human place. And in that place, there was a density. It was dark. There was no lights. And it was like the most incredible maternal kind of energy, and it engulfed me. And the voice that spoke to me, however, was male or male-ish. And he said, go back in your body. Now, mind you, I still had my personality. And I said, what, are you effing kidding me? They're beating the crap out of me down there. I don't want to go back in my body. And the moment it all changed was when I realized I wasn't having a human interaction. There was no conversation. There was no response. The response was silence. The thickest, densest silence I had ever experienced in this lifetime. And so what happened was, it was like this, I don't know real time, how long it took, because time ceased. It wasn't up or down, in or out. There was no directions. It was just this other dimension. Time passed, human term, not spiritual term. And again, the voice spoke to me and said, go back in your body. I just aligned with the thought of yes, and I got sucked back to earth. It was like the fastest elevator you ever experienced. And I landed and my body jumped. Those three guys, they grabbed my attaché case and they ran away. In that attaché case was all my documentary information, all the prep work, and my money. And they took it all. 4.5 years worth of research that I had done previously was gone. So I tried to get up, and I got up, and my right leg dragged like Quasimodo. And I walked back to my teacher's house, and I knocked on the door. He was talking in Dutch, and he said, what happened? Are you okay? And I was screaming. I was just screaming, my film. And I could swear I saw the direction that one of the three men ran in. And I said, I want to find him. I have to find him. And it didn't matter that I just went through this whole experience. My focus instantly became that film. It had nothing to do with what just transpired. It had to do with getting that attaché case with all that stuff in it. And I walked with Frans and his wife. We went across the big street in Amsterdam, and I found one of the guys. He was coming out of his house. And I got up to him, and I threatened to kill him. And I said, if you don't return that attaché case with everything intact, not in a canal, return it, I'm going to come and I'm going to kill you. And I'm going to torture you like what you just did to me. And I said, and I'll find your other two friends too. Well, after I delivered that message, both in English and in Dutch, I collapsed. They got me up. First, they brought me to the police station where I was trying to recall what had happened to me, and everything was like, I was starting to feel the physical pain. One of the things that did happen that I can recall today is that once I started lifting, I didn't feel any more physical pain. I was no longer in my body to feel what was going on in there. But once I was sitting in the police station, the physical pain returned. After there, I went to the hospital where they observed me. They thought it was a miracle that I was in such good shape. I think that's the coverage from God, honestly. It would take me weeks. I went blind. I couldn't see. I had a deadline. Mind you, it happened on January 3rd. My first day of shooting this film was February 8th, and there was nothing that was going to stop me. It became my single focus from getting from point A to point B. So what happened was all my friends from film school and from program and everything came to help me. And they helped me storyboard the film. They helped me write the text because I couldn't see. I couldn't lift arms very well. And I got the project done. I made a film. It's a short film. It's called Adcast. And actually, if you ever want to see it, it is on YouTube, but you could hear my voice and you could hear the difference of my voice after the attack, after this near-death experience. There is a difference. So that experience occurred. I would finish my studies. I would make my film. I would get work in Europe. And I would go ahead, not really processing what happened to me until I returned back to the United States. And that was in 1993, when I was sitting on my couch watching, and mind you, I didn't know of an Oprah Winfrey when I lived in Europe, but watching Oprah Winfrey and on Prague was on. And he was talking about something, and all of a sudden, listening to James talk, everything opened up like a door, like a window, and all these memories came flooding back, and my body started shaking. And it was like, if I didn't know better, I would think I was having a seizure of some sort. But it was just the releasing from my body, from all the different places that I stored this information, started unwinding, literally unwinding. It's like, what am I going to do with this? And slowly but surely, it took years for this all to not even understood so much. It was more, I had to accept it. And who was I going to talk to about this? If I explained what happened to me, people said, oh, that's nice, Leigh. They didn't really take me seriously. I remember talking to a cantor at a temple about what happened, and they said, you know, if you keep talking about hearing people talking to you, they're going to put you away. And I was like, wow, I got to go back in a closet. So I did. And then what would happen is I was always spiritual. I was spiritual since I was a wee little girl, a wee little Leigh girl. And I have said this before, for me, it all started with the first experience of awe. the first time I ever experienced awe. That feeling was similar to the leading into what I experienced when I died. So what happened? There's so much going through my brain right now. In the releasing of this information, I started writing some of it down. And I came up with a one-woman show, and I performed it, and I told a story, and I told other stories. You know, what happened in Amsterdam was on so many levels. It was three drunk guys out for their jollies. They didn't know that I was a woman when they attacked me. In those days, my head was shaven like a boy, like a very butch little boy, and I wore a men's fedora and a men's overcoat, and I think they were just trying to rob me. And when they figured out that I was a woman, it became a gay bashing. So all the horrible terms in Dutch were recorded. And so it became a hate crime. So that, I have to say that those kind of issues can become distractions, because those are very human experiences. The attack is a human experience. The slowing my body down is a spiritual experience. Moving into my greater soul is a spiritual experience. I didn't have these words in those days to understand what I had experienced. So back in and the other part of this is I have helped many thousands of people at the end of their life transition out. I did this before this experience in Amsterdam, and I've done it since that experience in Amsterdam. And so my intimacy with transitions, death and dying, loose quotes, the continuity of life, about moving from one room to another, literally and figuratively and spiritually. When people say, what's death like? I say, death is gentle. Death is not unkind. Death is not. Even if the circumstance seems to be so violent, the act of dying, of transitioning, what humans call dying, that leaving the body to this other space, this other loca, it's gentle, it's kind, it's drenched in love. Now, if you're not prepared to receive that love, well, that's a whole other story. So from that point on, helping all these people pass over and transition, then my dad would get sick, and I would help him at the end of his life. That's 2015, June 8th, 2015. A year later, I would get diagnosed with a tumor in my head, and I would have to have a 10.5-hour surgery. In this process, when I was diagnosed to when I had the operation, I was diagnosed in June 2016, and my surgery would be November 7th, 2016. And that whole time period in between, I practiced not knowing. People would try to put the dot at the end of my sentence. You have cancer. You have a brain tumor, therefore you have cancer. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, I don't have cancer. I have a tumor in my head. Until you tell it's proven that I had something, it didn't exist. And that became a very finite path forward for all different levels and all different ways. So after that surgery, that's when the next round of body memories and recall started aligning, because for being out of my consciousness for 10.5 hours, it also reignited this whole path that I have already experienced a couple of times. Recovery from that took a while, but what happened was it was as if God said to me, no more mucking about. Stop doing these other things. I want you to stay focused and go forward from here. And that's all I was capable of doing. And that's what I did. My wife and I had started a bakery back in '98 and called the Cake Divas, and we were on television and we were known all over the world. I mean, whoop-de-doo. So we made these crazy cakes and we did all this stuff. But after this surgery, I no longer could go back to the bakery. And we had a long talk because this was our business together. And she says, it's okay. It's okay that you go and do what you came here to do. and I will take care of this part of the business. I will take care of the business. And I basically left the business. And at the age of 60, I decided to not retire. I decided to go back to school. I decided to start studying. And what I started studying was channeling and mediumship, because I had these abilities, but I didn't know how to harness them, so to speak. So I met this teacher, Sean Randall, here in Los Angeles, and she became one of my teachers, and she helped me a lot tap into and release all the blocks that I would have. So with that experience, everything started lining up, like as if life was like clicking, click, 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 click. Everything's into place. The big puzzle that's my life fell into place. So I sit here with you now with so much information I have received over the years, from doing meditation to teaching meditation to channeling to mediumship to not just meeting souls as they're on their way out, but meeting souls who are already on their way out who want to communicate with those who are still here. All of it. That has been this life's experience. And there's more. I never thought there would be communities of people who had, not that I was so unique, but that I would be able to communicate with and connect with, and who would understand what I understand, that I'm not crazy. I should not be institutionalized. I don't need to be in the crazy house. What I did have, and I've had many burning bush experiences in this lifetime. I can tell you stories about when Jesus Christ came to me. Now, mind you, I'm born Jewish. I'm not raised Christian, but I had this experience. And it was after having a severe manipulative experience where people who were supposed to be trusted with the well-being of others took advantage of that situation and used what I didn't even know, which was my sexual orientation, weaponized it and turned it against me and had me bury the lesbian part of myself, quote unquote. I had to, in Judaism, sit shiva for myself. You don't sit shiva for yourself. I had to say certain prayers. I had to read certain chapters in the Bible. I had to do that instead of going to therapy groups in this drug program. I had to take the time out. And one night, when I was sitting there, and I just felt like, how do I know this is the right thing for me? How do I know that these people have my best interests at heart when they've tried to destroy me? I don't trust this. I don't know what to believe in. And no sooner than those words came out of my mouth, this energy formed behind me, this intense white light, like blinding light. And this energy form was Jesus Christ. And he moved towards me. And I flipped out. I thought I really lost my mind. I ran out the door, ran down the stairs, ran out of the building, ran down the street. I was running along the service road for the Long Island Expressway. And then my father came by because he came to get me. And he picked me up and I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak. And I went to my friend, Paul, and I said, he was a born-again Christian. I said, help me. He said, anything, what can I do? I said, I need a Bible, and I need you to take me to your church, because I needed to be around believers. And that's the only thing I knew. I went to that church. I walk in there. This woman starts talking in tongues. Mind you, I'm Jewish. I don't know from tongues. And she's going on in this other language that I don't get. And then this other woman jumps up and goes, I'll testify. I'll testify. And I look at Paul like, what is going on here? And sure enough, the second woman started telling exactly what happened to me in that room, in that Synagogue program in Long Island, New York. And I said, that's it, I got to go. It was so right there, so right there. And I left. And I went through questioning every single thing in my life. And I did more drugs to try and get it out of my head. And I would do it for a number of years until I would leave New York and eventually come to California. And then and it goes on and it goes on and it goes on.
Leigh, thank you for sharing with us. If we go back to your NDE and you heard this voice speaking to you,
Yes,
who was that voice?
I believe it was God. That was the moment, I started calling God the motherly father or the fatherly mother. It didn't matter. That there was no form, that it was greater than any human combination you could possibly come up with. It was a non-human experience. And it was glorious.
So in that realm that you were in, it was
Yes.
completely black?
Yeah, I didn't have sight. I don't know if I didn't have sight, but it was black. To me, it was black. It was like the density of a very thick fog. If it had more texture, like an energetic field, and it was sticky.
A lot of people describe that as velvety, but you just said sticky, so it's a little different.
To me, it was sticky. It wasn't like clinging on me, but it was just this. It's like, when you squish a marshmallow after it's been stretched out, all that, you made it into taffy. And then there's this sticky sponginess to it. That's the kind of density it felt like.
Do you feel like that place was like a point of creation that you could move from there to anywhere?
That's an interesting idea. I never thought of it like that, but yes, it was like 0.0, like anything can happen. There was no predetermination there. There was no closet space I didn't see levels. I wasn't seeing other beings at that point. I really only heard and experienced the density of the silence was as dense as that location was.
Was the silence comforting?
I don't know if I would use that as the adjective. The silence was profound. It was it. It was the it. I don't know how else to say it. It's like, uh-oh, I shouldn't have argued. I shouldn't, who am I to argue with God? Who am I? And once the ego removed, instantly, it was just this, okay, it was a teacher. Was it comforting? I wouldn't say I felt comforted by it. I would say I was aware of it. And that there was so much more of it that I would learn about.
What would you say was your emotional state at the time?
Good question. My emotional state at the time was perplexed. I didn't know, I felt lost. I felt unsure. It felt comfortable. There was a feeling of comfort there. There was, because I didn't want to go back. I feel like I arrived someplace. And my emotions was just totally, what is going on? Help me, what is going on here? I was lost.
After you came back and you've kind of resolved getting your film materials back, at any point were you angry that you actually came back?
Yes. Yes. I didn't think it was fair. I really didn't. This has been a tough lifetime. And why would I be booted out of heaven? Why would I be sent back here? What is going on? What am I not getting? It almost felt like a punishment.
Since you've processed the experience, do you feel like you were sent back here for a specific purpose?
Absolutely. I believe now I was sent back here because first I needed to do more healing. I had to release a lot of levels, and I had to clear. I had to clear stuff out of the way. I had to learn about me as a human, me in relationship to others, me in relationship to my family, my bio family. Why did I choose these individuals to be my parents, my sibling, so forth and so on? I had to learn there was so much learning that went on. And I had to hit bottom after bottom after bottom after bottom, emotionally, spiritually, feeling knocked around, standing back up, feeling knocked around again, and learning and heaps and healing things that I just never imagined I would heal. And there was a few moments that have since that time that there are certain times when there are these alignments. Now, I don't know if they're planetary, but they were energetic alignments where I would remember the conversation before I came into this world to be born. I would remember that I agreed to have these parents, to go through what I went through with them as parents, to be a drug addict and get clean, to stay clean, and I'm still clean 38 years later. What does that mean? To change my hatred, to open up, to be able to see God in other things, to be able to serve mankind. I am here to help people learn about the human experience and the soul experience in concert with each other and separate at times. That's why I'm here. These lessons, there's so many, are even how do you sit still in your body? Not just how do you not use drugs? How do you love somebody? What is love? I had to learn what love was. Even after this experience, I had to learn as a human to trust love. Love used to feel like glass cutting my flesh. Even though I had this other experience, I was not able to tap it yet. Now I could tap it all the time. So learning what love is, meeting my life partner, and knowing that we have something. She was mine and I was hers, and it didn't matter what gender or any of that. Trust me, I've had a lot of boyfriends. I try to be straight. It's not who I am in this lifetime. So is that a punishment, that not being straight? No, it's about finding the truth about what my purpose is on this planet in this lifetime.
Jesus appeared behind you. What did he tell you?
No words. Extension of arms and this all-encompassing white light.
Did you have any other interaction with him? Like, did you hug him, or did you just feel his energy and then freaked you out and you ran?
Yeah, no, I felt his energy. I looked at him. I said, am I losing my mind? And he shook his head, no. And he said, come here. Like, he was like, so, like, come here. Like a good Jewish grandpa, come here. It was like this very, come here. I want to hold you. Come here. This is very wrong. Like, he was communicating telepathically with me as opposed to verbally. And it was like, I was like, I'm not having this experience. And I ran from it. I just ran from it. And it wasn't until I had my spiritual teacher, Jaya, that I talked about it freely. And she shared with me her Jesus experience. And she met with the Christ. And it was just really reaffirming, and he was so it was like he oozed understanding. He oozed acceptance. It was not any judgment, and it was like Jesus was a rabbi, for God's sakes. He was a rabbi. He was a Jewish rabbi. And he lived the tenets of Judaism, which are familiar to me. Because I was, even though my family doesn't believe there's a God, my great grandmother did, and she's who introduced me to the sense of awe so many years ago. And there's a ritual to it, to receiving. And he was offering, it was just pure offering. And I didn't have the space in me that knew what love was at that point. I really didn't. Where I lived in that point emotionally was in survival mode. In a place where I didn't feel seen or heard or understood, that if I could possibly even tell someone the truth, they would never believe me. I didn't have a support.
So after encountering Jesus, did you change your religious views?
No. No, but I did ask my friend Paul to take me to his church. And when I had that experience with the woman speaking in tongues and the other one interpreting, what I got to experience there was, just like in Judaism and other religions, the dogma interrupts the spirituality. And I knew that what I learned in that church was the great power of believing. And when people come together to believe, that is, whether it's positive or negative, it doesn't matter. It's exercising that muscle of belief. That is where the power lies.
You just mentioned the scent of awe. What is that?
It's an effervescence. It's just like you inhale it, and it fills your whole essence. And it creates, it's like freshness. It's a cooling effect. Does it have a smell like a rose? No. But I have a major spiritual sense experience. And it affected everything. And to breathe in that coolness, it went up to my brain and down my throat and into my heart and throughout my entire being. My flesh was scrubbed from the inside out from just breathing and inhaling this freshness.
Would you say that this woman is a member of your soul family that you've been together with over and over again?
Absolutely. She is definitely, we are soulmates. We've been together in so many different centuries and lifetimes. And I don't even know if we've always been on this planet. I don't have that information yet. But what I do know is that when we were introduced, and any time in the beginning of our relationship, when we would have a physical connection, and I'm not talking sex, okay? I'm just holding a hand, stroking a cheek. It was like being sucked into a time machine and going back to the Spanish Inquisition, other times that I never even knew I lived. Joan would have the same experiences. And she would have it from different perspectives. And we would fill in the story and know who we were to each other. And she said when we were introduced, this voice spoke to her and said, there she is. If you move forward, you're going to change your whole life. Is about to start in a whole new direction. And she said yes.
Have you ever looked backwards at your life and kind of connected the dots and said, okay, this is why all these other relationships didn't work, because I've been waiting for her?
Yes. Okay. So I say it's just a little different. What I say is every person I've ever been with, male or female, doesn't matter, has an attribute, right? They had something that made me say, oh yeah, okay, this is what I'm supposed to have in my life. But then there was a whole lot of other stuff that I wasn't supposed to have in my life, and I didn't understand, and I would hold on. When I met Joan, she had all of it. She had all of it, everything, from the little mini tattoo to just, and then I had seen a woman, a psychic, 2 weeks before I met her. And I was just out of, not just, but a year earlier, been out of a relationship. I was with somebody from Australia in Amsterdam. And she said to me, forget her. She's with a guy and she's moved on. But you're about to meet your soulmate, your partner. I said, what do you mean? She says, I see you in this place and it's all crowded and there's a lot of gay people and I don't know what it is. And it was very crowded. And she said, and it's going to happen in 2 weeks. And she's going to say this thing. And for the life of me, I can't remember what it was she was supposed to say to me. So the event that she was referring to was the Gay Film Festival in Los Angeles that year. And I was screening the film I made, Outcasts. And she was tearing tickets to see movies for free. She was the person who gave me my packet when I came in the door and welcomed me. And then I'm the volunteer coordinator. I went looking for him and I said, who is that woman? And he said, oh, that's Joan, blah, 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 blah. So I went up, I got the nerve to go up to her and say, would you like to come Tuesday night to see my film? It's screening in the big theater. And she said, I would love to. So she came to see my film. And my father was there with his wife and my brother and his wife and my friend. And anyway, it was just this turning point in my life, one of those moments, and I would see her again because she's there the whole time. And every time, and I'm a funny girl, so I'm like, clean and sober, right? So I don't want to be with anyone who drinks or does drugs. And I was like coming on my 8th year clean at that time, 30 years ago. And she always had water. She always was drinking a bottle of water. I said, oh, what a relief. So I asked her out. And she said, yes. And we've been together ever since. And our love, we adopted a daughter who is a child of a drug addict who couldn't get clean. And she was a mess, that kid. But now she's married and has 2 gorgeous babies. And we just did a vow renewal on their 7th because she got pregnant with the first one in the time period we were going to do a wedding. And I said to her, that's it for the big wedding. You're getting married. You're not bringing this kid into the world, not married. You're not doing that. And she looked at me, you're gay. You're supposed to be liberal. You're supposed to be open-minded. It's like, nope, you're bringing that kid. That kid is going to have a mommy and daddy who are married. They did it. And so we just had the vow renewal. My daughter's a Christian. She goes to a church with her husband. She's raising her children Christian. Her daughters are having a hard time coming to understand why Joan and I are married. How could we possibly be married? One's 6 and one's 4, and it's not time to explain it yet. So I have to keep respecting my daughter's wishes because that's who I am. And it's kind of hard sometimes. But what it teaches me is that love is greater than all of it. And that I have been blessed with a gift from this near-death experience. One of the gifts I received is I'm allowed to reach up and touch the essence of heaven, of the divine love. And that in doing this in a conscious way, I have the ability to have it be a channel, literally have it come through my arms, into my body, and put it out into the world. And I do a lot of work with white light orbs, soul work, to help people heal and grow. It doesn't matter if it's Christian or Jewish or Hindu or Muslim or whatever, Buddhist. It doesn't matter. Benai, whatever. As long as it is about moving toward the oneness, the grace and the love of the Almighty, the God, the Goddess, all that is in divine love.
What do you mean you do work with white light orbs? Are you actually seeing the orbs and then connecting with them?
Okay, so I can see them, not like I see the light above my computer. It's not like that. Though sometimes when I'm working with spirits or people who have just recently passed on, what many see are the little, you ever see those little white lights that bounce around sometimes after somebody passes? That's their soul, right? So imagine this. So we have this light inside of our hearts. I believe that's what makes our hearts beat, to tell you the truth. And that light is inside the heart, and the heart is inside the flesh. The flesh is inside the larger orb, the larger life force, the soul, the larger soul. Your larger soul is not a form, it's infinite. It's infinite. And we are able to communicate. Now we're using computers, but that's not the only way we're communicating in this moment. We're sharing an understanding. We're sharing a curiosity. We're sharing an interest in the highest good, right? That's unbelievable. So I did another interview, and in that interview, I literally did pull down the energy and put it out into the computer and out for people to see. I did that, and I found out afterwards that the moment that the woman interviewing me received that energy, an ambulance was going by her window at that moment. And it was like she saw it go out to the ambulance, the energy. So if you're trained to see the light, you can see it. But if you're not trained, you can feel it. And if you know how to close your eyeballs and open up your third eye, and that whole area, it's not just a third eye like that opens invisibly. It's almost like a movie screen on your forehead, that where you could see things that can expand beyond your flesh, and you can take in and see the energy. So if we pull it down, because we receive with our left, and then and bring it in, and then it comes and merges with the heart space, and that grows, and that grows, and that grows. You can feel that. You feel that. That's the purpose of meditation. People say meditation is to listen to God. I think meditation is to feel God, to feel this connection, to being embraced and connected in such another frequency that you as a human individual could not create by yourself.
In the beginning, I mentioned that you are a channeler and a medium. Are those abilities the result of your NDE?
No. They're enhanced by my NDE, but they are not a result of. Anybody could be a channel, and anyone can be a medium. It's your birthright. It's your birthright to be able to communicate with all that is. But most people don't want to have anything to do with it. Most people doubt their ability, and therefore they only experience their inability. Their inability is an illusion. So they go to someone to help them, to get the answers, instead of sitting still and asking the answer for yourself. I was taught how to utilize and harness what I have as an ability. Every single person born can have that ability.
Leigh, after watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that? And if so,
Absolutely.
How do they reach you?
Go to my website, leighgrode.com, and go through, and then there's a contact, and just send me an email, and I'll get it and I'll respond, and we'll figure it out from there.
Do you have a YouTube channel as well?
I'm working on it. I'm not there yet. This coming out process, again, I mean, that's been one of the themes in this lifetime too. You know, being able to be honest and tell the truth. It's a gift. It's a gift. No, I don't have enough recordings yet to have a channel. I'm working on it. I want to do transmissions and I want to do questions that I'm asked. You know, if I'm asked something, I will answer it. You may not like what you hear, but I'll tell you the truth.
Which channel can people see your movie Outcast on?
Well, what I understand, it's on YouTube. It's only a 24-minute film, right? And it's in 3 parts. And it's just put in Leigh Grode and my name, and then it'll on YouTube and it'll come up. It'll come up. You'll see me when I was on television with the food and the cakes, but it'll also show you my film Outcast.
Do you have anything else that you're working on that you want us to know about?
Yes, I am. I am working on developing a methodology for teaching. This isn't. This is not for the faint of heart. If you're willing to do the work and you need to be supported, I'm a life coach. I'm a spiritual life coach. That's what I have certification after certification after certification. And I'm accredited with several different organizations. There's a path forward. And I'm here to help. So that's one thing. But the other thing is also I'm working with another channel who's a very dear and close friend of mine to develop a program to teach people how to embrace this work for themselves and the rest of the world. But I tell you now that you have to be a clear channel, meaning if you know about the chakras, the main chakras, the 7 chakras in the body, if your chakras are not clear and open to receive, what will happen when you start to experience divinity and divine love is you're going to experience explosions and implosions. You have to do the work. You have to clear so that you can be in receivership of this divine energy. We're carbon-based product. You want to stay here on the planet, you have to clear. You have to. And I can help with that.
Before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Yes, sure. We are all here at this time in history for the most amazing reality. There is such a shift in consciousness. My suggestion is don't buy into the collective consciousness that is a lower frequency and a lower vibration. There's so much higher frequency. All you have to do is choose. Just choose. If you can choose, you can be. And when you can be, you already are.
Leigh, thank you for that message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jeff. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Well, the pleasure was all mine.
And mine as well. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.